Then he brought the deities back to buried place, and he kept them in his room, right in his room with him. He had a very nice room in there, and they were behind a little cloth curtain. Anyway, when we finished the installation, Prabhupada had us move the deity on the altar. This altar, was a bit of a disaster. What Shamsundar did with that temple room was the most beautiful, architecturally beautiful temple room. He made it out of the California redwoods that he had brought. I think you had all brought California redwood with you. Beautiful. It was like the Ajanta caves. It was designed after the Ajanta caves in India. Very nicely turned ceiling like this with all redwood. But as good as he was at that, he didn't leave enough time for the altar. So when he made the altar, he went out and got these pillars, which were like elephant's legs. And they had a very delicate canopy over them, but the pillars were just top-heavy. So the deities were set inside this altar, and suddenly these huge pillars started to collapse on Sri Sri Radha-Londonisvara after they had been installed. And Prabhupada had been sitting in the deity room with myself and I think with yourself, it was you, and Jamuna were inside the deity room with Prabhupada, and the pillars started to collapse. And again, to understand Prabhupada's ability, Prabhupada just understood everything. He knew exactly what to do. He jumped up. We were all standing there. The pillars were about to crush the deities. As quickly as, how long does it take for a pillar to go like this? Yet Prabhupada was so fast that he jumped out of the chair, raced over and held the pillars on both sides and held them off so that they wouldn't collapse on the deities. Just so quickly he moved. And he held them, and I was thinking, it was like he was holding, it was like the picture of, who was that figure? Samson, right? He looked so powerful. He was so powerful that he was holding these huge pillars off of the deities. And he was shaking. He was very, he was angry because this was happening. And of course we assisted and then gradually pulled it off. And the temple room was packed. Smoke was filling the whole room. And the curtain was supposed to open. And here we are with these pillars collapsing and the whole altar collapsing. So one by one we called the brahmacharis in, and they, I think Dhananjaya first, and they started to walk out of the closed curtain, with these pillars on their shoulders. Very unusual deity, revealing the deity for the first time. They're walking out, and people couldn't figure out what is going on here, They thought it was part of the ceremony. They thought it was part of the ceremony. So we cleared the altar out, and the altar was below Lord Jagannath, and then gradually it opened, and there were 7 days of festivities. I remember one gentleman, that when the first offering was made, when the offering went on the altar, Prabhupada said, immediately start distributing prasadam, because it was getting late. He said, so we said, is there any time? He said, don't worry, just start distributing prasadam. Even though the offering went on, and the prasadam, Prabhupada said, distribute. And I remember every evening, there was one man, it was morning and evening, he used to sit there in the corner and cry. Remember that one gentleman? Very nice man. He used to look at the deities, and Prabhupada once stopped the lecture and he said, this man loves these deities so much. And it was very, very wonderful. That Vyasa-san had a copper base, strips of copper, and Prabhupada was so close, remember? And then he had us design he designed a cane. He said everything that Prabhupada did we thought was like all original for the first time. We didn't know that every deity in Vrindavan and in the world, that Krishna has a cane. Because Prabhupada, we asked Prabhupada, what does he need a cane? He said, his arm is getting tired. So we thought, wow. Everything was for the first time. I always said the first time I saw Prabhupada go like this, I thought, everything Prabhupada does, but then you go to India and everybody goes like that. So similarly, all the deities of Krishna have canes, but as far as we were concerned, Prabhupada knew, it was clear to us that Krishna's arm was getting tired and he needed a cane. And that's why he got a cane made. So we were very innocent, and Prabhupada was very deep, and it was a very wonderful combination. He installed Sri Sri Radha-Londonisvara. And I definitely can say that, from what I also understood, that Prabhupada really did say these deities were the most exceptionally beautiful deities. And he had such special appreciation for these deities. And they are the first large Radha and Krishna deities worshipped in the Western world. They're very, very special deities.